You can do what's called spinning plates, which is really just dating multiple women on a simultaneous basis with non-exclusivity.
Welcome to the Garen'teed Success Podcast. I'm Garen Phillips, and today I'm here with Rich Cooper. So, Rich, you mostly teach red pill, right?
I teach guys to unplug from lies that don't serve them. Yeah, which involves some red pill knowledge.
Yeah, I'm not sure if too much of my audience is familiar with red pill. They're in their early 20s to 30s. And for those that don't know what the red pill is, what would be something that you would teach them being 20 to 30 years old?
Well, a lot of the standard conventional societal lies that guys receive growing up are, become less so she can become more, bend the knee to all women all the time sort of thing, be the nice guy, be the shoulder to cry on sort of thing. And that's not what drives arousal in women. Women don't get the Gina tingles for the nice guy that they can cry on the shoulder of. So what I tend to do is, and it isn't just limited to like women and, things like relationships and stuff like that, because you can really apply unplugging from lies to all areas of life. That's really what it starts with for most guys, because that's where they go looking for answers if they haven't been getting good results. Is why do women keep leaving me? Why do I keep having unhealthy attachments to one woman that I should really be over by now when she's already gone out with 3 other guys, sort of thing. That's usually where it starts for more guys, and then they can start to realize, oh well, this kind of also will apply to creating wealth, and this will apply to making better decisions in life, sort of thing.
Yeah, like basically seeing reality for reality instead of through a lens.
Seeing everything for what it truly is. Yeah.
Yeah. When did you find red pill? When did you first jump into this?
Wasn't that long ago, to be honest with you. Maybe about 4 years ago or so now, I think. I was at a men's retreat. I was out in Spokane at Ben Greenfield's house doing this weekend with, 30 other guys. And I was just chopping it up one morning with this guy that was running I can't remember what it was. It was an IV clinic somewhere in San Diego. I can't remember what the product was, but either way, we're talking about women and, the kind of results we were getting out of life. And I was just basically telling him about this breakup that I had maybe a year before. And I was still talking about it like an idiot. And he's like, dude, you got to read this book, The Rational Male by Rollo Tomassi, and start with that. And then start to understand that some things are a little bit different than the way you've been operating. So that was a bit of I'm not going to say a shock to the system. It was really interesting, but it took me to a place where I was like, oh, okay. My spidey senses were tingling this whole time, telling me to maybe pay slightly different attention to things, but it all kind of connected the dots for me. And that's where I really, went right down into it. And I was reading all of Rollo's books, Jack Donovan's books, Robert Greene's stuff, of course. I'm just looking over my shoulder at my bookshelf to try to make sure I give credit to all of them. But no more Mr. Nice Guy stuff, obviously. And then all of the Evo Psych stuff really kind of stitched it all together perfectly so I could see the code in the matrix.
Yeah, I love Evo Psych and behavioral psychology and stuff. I'm studying CBT right now, actually. Cool. But I wanted to thank you. You recommended, I was watching one of your videos, Tactical Guide to Women. That book, I finished it. It's amazing. It's really good. And your book is as well, Unplugged Alpha. I see you got it on your shelf over there.
Thanks. Yeah.
Your book is a very clean cut, no bullshit, just straight to the point when it comes to like red pill theory. The Rational Male is really good, but it's a much longer book and much more, dense and verbose, but it's a fantastic book as well.
I tell guys this, I mean, when you get into Rollo stuff, it's like drinking from a fire hose. It's very dense and there's a lot of power coming out of that stream sort of thing. So you can't get it all in one pass. So when I was putting my book together, I really wanted to take like everything that I had learned personally, share my own experiences with some dumb mistakes that I had made. By the point that I'd finished the book, I'd probably coached about 1,000 guys one-on-one. For the most part, I'm going to say about 3/4 of the coaching calls that I was doing with these guys were mostly around women and the results that they were getting. So I spent a lot of time highlighting all of the main stuff, distilled it down to 200 pages. It's probably the cleanest cut version of red pill that you can get in one book.
Yeah, it's definitely a very clean book. I really enjoyed it. So you got into it 4 years ago. Was the woman you had one-itis essentially, and Do you care to
Yeah.
explain one-itis to guys that don't know these terminologies?
Yeah, so the terminology might be new, but the feeling should be familiar for a lot of guys. One-itis is really just an unhealthy attachment to one woman. So usually about 7 or 8 times out of 10, women are breaking up with guys. So they're walking away from the relationship. When women leave, they're generally done. When men leave, women want to have endless meetings, texts, emails. They want to figure out what went wrong and all this. But if you try to do the same with women, you become that creepy guy, and they have to call the cops on you, sort of stuff. So, there's a different set of standard rules. But that's really what one-itis is really pining for the one that you thought got away, thinking that there's no other ones out there. Like, there can't possibly be any other potential matches that would ever come your way at any time in the future. And all you do is you think about this one woman all the time. And it's a bad place to be, because you're unproductive. You don't get a lot of stuff done. You don't sleep well at night. I used to have a lot of the symptoms of PTSD, right? So I'm very, very familiar with it.
Yeah, I can relate too. I moved to Austin this year, and I got into Red Pill 7 years ago and consumed all the literature and the material and stuff, but it kind of just became like an echo chamber. So I disconnected from it to do my own thing, focus on my own work. But fell into a one-itis with a chick, and it messed me up pretty bad too. It really is, like, emotionally and psychologically terrible for you, especially if you're trying to become successful and do stuff with your life.
Yeah, it's one of the worst places to be for a guy when you're trying to put a dent in the universe.
Yeah. Did you so when you're in your 20s and 30s, were you in serious committed relationships, or were you just kind of living the best life?
Yeah, 20s, I made the mistake of being in one long LTR and one short LTR. I tell guys, for the most part, stay away from any kind of committed, monogamous, long-term relationship with one woman in your 20s. 20s should be spent time spent on yourself, building the foundation for your life, figuring out how to make money and be competent and all that sort of stuff. I got married in my early to mid 30s, got divorced by my late 30s, and I've had a few girlfriends since then, but I've also done a lot of dating too.
Yeah. So I'm kind of going through the transition now, kind of just really trying to break the one-itis and unplug from that. Was it a rough transition for you to do that, or did it just kind of click and you just got it?
No, it was rough. I would say it took me a good year, like a good solid year, to kind of get my head around why and how to get away from that nonsense. And it was really like, just, okay, I'm serious about not being unproductive anymore, and I really want to get shit done, and I hate this feeling. And why do I wake up, in the middle of the night thinking about stuff that shouldn't bother me when it does?
Yeah.
So all of the answers kind of came with the whole, the red pill thinking sort of stuff. The Evo site kind of just made it fully understood to me. Speaking of Sean Smith, he was a guy that I worked with on my Before the Trainwreck series on my YouTube channel for about 50 odd episodes before he wanted to resign from it. But we had a lot of conversations during the shows about personal stuff, even after the shows. But there's this notion of a safe world theory where you subscribe to, if I just do all of these things, then I will get all of these things that I thought should come my way. And then when that safe world theory is violated by, let's say, a woman that breaks your trust, or she goes and bangs somebody else, or does something that, completely throws a loop in your entire belief system, all of that collapses on itself.
Yep.
I started to have a lot of the symptoms of PTSD, which was just total waste of my time. I mean, literally, guys that go to war and dodge bullets had nearly the same feeling. So I was like, okay, this is something that I got to get some clarity on. And yeah, just taking the time to work on it myself. There's a lot of stuff, behind the scenes that I had to do that I didn't really talk about in the book, but all of the meat and potatoes, like all of the understanding the components, are all in that book.
Yeah. What was like top two things that you feel like you did repeatedly over and over and over that kind of helped? Was it just like watching your behavior, watching how your thoughts, like a lot of awareness, or what?
I actually found that journaling was probably one of the most useful things. I started to keep a journal of all of my dates, and kind of just trying to reflect back on who they were, what my initial feelings were, like just to kind of like sum it up, but not in a hokey pokey, like let's hold
Yeah.
hands and sing kumbaya kind of way, but like in a realistic, rational sort of approach. And that that does a lot to kind of kill off the beta in guys. Well, for me anyway, I found. So it just unplugged me from a lot of the lies and stuff that I would have previously just breezed right over, like just been like, yep, this is totally acceptable, I believe this to be completely true. Whereas, forcing myself to journal, some ideas and some feedback on it would apply a critical lens to a lot of those interactions, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I entirely relate to that. I journal a lot, but I've never journaled on women. I've just recently, after reading the Tactical Guide to Women, because do you, related to that book, do you feel like you didn't really have a value system for like how to evaluate women to be what you want, or did all the red pill stuff kind of give you that, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I'm not looking for?
Well, I did have a value system. I mean, when I was plugged into the societal lies, I mean, I did marry a lawyer. I mean, she was arguably as successful as I was when I had met her. So, I did have standards, obviously, beauty standards, lifestyle standards, sort of thing. But I think what ends up happening is you start to kind of like hone those skills and they just become better. And there's certain things that you'll no longer tolerate. There's tighter boundaries that you set around certain areas of your life and interactions you're going to have with women in your life. So it was really just tooling that product to make it a lot more of a finer point.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think I'm going to start journaling on that. It's I never thought of that. But all right. Well, I had some questions written down real quick. Let me go ahead and pull them up. I was going through a lot of your content and just taking notes on things that I thought. So, as far as guys and becoming successful, when it comes to your SMV, what women are attracted to, you need to be out and doing successful things. One thing I've noticed recently in my life is surrounding myself with men that are more action oriented and trying to get things done with their life. Would you think that's a pretty important thing for most guys, to be around the type of environment that you want?
Yeah, I think men need to challenge each other. I mean, there's no doubt that, you've got to push each other. It's kind of the reason why men jokingly, poke at each other, in certain ways that some might say is underhanded, or they might call it, oh, that's toxic masculinity. No, it's just men being men. Sorry. I'm not even going to apologize for that, actually.
Yeah.
But like you got to hold each other accountable. But one of the things that I also find myself doing as well is I only surround myself with guys that will reinforce positive masculinity and positive type of relationships that serve properly. Because I was involved in a entrepreneurs group called EO for, I don't know, about 4 or 5 years. I was in a forum and actually a couple of different forums. And there was a lot of, listening to narratives and stories over dinner events, over forum events, where it's like, some of those notions of, well, happy wife, happy life sort of thing. And it's like, you can have a guy that's like pretty much world class in his business, industry leader, but he's continuously bending the knee to a woman that's treating him like a plow horse.
Yeah.
And I want to surround myself with the best of the best, which to me also involves, surrounding myself with guys that understand the sexual dynamics between men and women and what, drives arousal and attraction, all that stuff. So I actually created my own private forum, and the only guys that are in it is their business owners, and they're also already in the basic tier of my men's community. So if they're generating at least $1 million a year in annual sales and they're red pilled, they automatically qualify. It's just, do we have room for them now?
Okay, that's a pretty good idea. So you have your own vetting system.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is when you were doing the thing earlier in your life, you said a couple of years ago, was that all in person, or was that just online? Were you actually going out and meeting these guys?
EO forums are done in person, which is, I think, a great way to do it. And I fully endorse the organization. I'd support it. Mine are done on Zoom, kind of like this, obviously, because I've got members in Australia, Romania, Sweden. I got a few in the US and a couple in Canada. So I got guys all the way around the world. So it's not really practical to fly in for monthly meetings.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you been hit by cancel culture or anything with the toxic masculinity, anything like that? I'm sure you get lots of hate messages, but
yeah, I mean, I've had people try to cancel me, but I mean, I'm an entrepreneur, like I'm self-employed. I have a business which kind of led me into this stuff on YouTube and, writing this book and everything that I'm doing right now. But I've been self-employed since 2003. And I mean, I've had people try to dox me. Well, how do you dox somebody when they use their real name and the real face? Hi, I'm Richard Cooper. This is my face. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
I've had people that tried to complain to my company, but it's like, dude, I'm the CEO. Like, do you understand? If you don't like it, you can pound sand. The door's over there, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I think that the anti-fragility component of living that part of your life as a guy is like game on it on like an advanced level, because there are a lot of guys out there that will talk about stuff like this, have conversation, have these types of conversations, but they get very skittish. It's like, oh, I don't want anybody to overhear this, or what if it's recorded, or what if my boss hears it, or if my wife hears it, or something like that. And it's like, I understand that there's a certain level of protection you want to put around your inner circle. But the anti-fragility part to me is the best part of it. And that's what you should seek if you're going to talk about stuff like this.
Yeah, definitely. You also, when you're like that, it has a certain level of respect too, when you're just straight up with things. When I got into Red Pill, the culture was very different, the vibes, and, it was very much, don't talk about this stuff, because you'll be attacked and stuff like that. So I wanted to say that I respect that you talk about this openly on YouTube as well. Like, you open yourself up to it. But
yeah, it's tough to do, because I mean, like, you have to kind of water down the content a little bit and use slightly different terminology so that it's not going, like, I still get hate mail. Like, I still get people that email me all the time. I got an episode tonight that I'm doing on my channel on single mothers, which was, the catalyst of that was a single mother that was lecturing me about me teaching men how to be assholes, was the word that she used. But she took no ownership for any of the choices that she made in her entire life. So I just like to take these utilities that kind of come my way, these gifts, and I use them as learning experiences so other guys can understand them. So I try to break them down in simpler terms for people.
A true entrepreneur, turn anything into a good situation.
Yeah, there's a silver lining in everything, right? Somebody sends you lemons. Let's make some lemon meringue pie, dude.
When did you dive into the entrepreneurial? Did you always do business stuff, or when did you take that dive into doing your own thing?
No, I did that around the age of 30. I mean, I've always done stuff at a younger age. I had a mobile car cleaning business when I was a teenager. I used to subcontract out parts of my paper route, when I was younger than that. But I spent a good part of my 20s working for the corporate world, lining other people's pockets with gold, seeing what that sort of environment looks like. And I had the opportunity to take a package and go home at the age of 30. And I'm glad I did.
Yeah. Did I catch that you were in financial?
Yeah. Credit card debt relief. I started working at Equifax, I think was the main play where it all began for me. Kind of moved from there to helping people with their consumer credit card debt, settle it up so they can get out of debt quicker with less damage to the credit rating.
Okay. So that was once you left corporate, you started doing that privately on your own?
That's right.
So do you still do that, or is it mostly just you're focusing on your,
No, I focus on my own thing now. I've pretty much done like an earn out buyout on that business. So my brother runs it now, but it's still there and it still runs. And I do some weekly shows with him just to kind of deal with common questions that come up for that. Yeah.
I'm sure this is much more rewarding for you doing this and helping guys out.
Yeah. I often talk about purpose and finding your purpose in life. And it was like one of those moments, somebody once said to me, like, you will know because it will be like taking a frying pan to the forehead. Right. And it's like one of those things that you feel like you should be doing for free, but you're so good at it, you charge money for it. I mean, like one of the things that I get heat from, from some guys is, you charge too much money for consults, like you're $2,000 an hour. Why do you charge so much? It's, well, I help guys that are high level entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
pilots, lawyers, doctors, not make stupid mistakes. So that's the area that I play in. But there's lots of guys out there that will, do it at a lower billable rate that may not understand the stuff that these guys have to deal with. So
yeah, definitely. It's knowing your audience and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And it's the more successful you want to become, or the more successful you plan on being, the more this stuff becomes a risk. That's something I've noticed over the past 5 or 7 years. Is back when I was 25, I wasn't really doing I didn't have any direction in my life, but I was, the issues with women were more tolerable, or more, not as big as an impact as they are now. Now as you get older, your time becomes more and more valuable. Do you have any like recommendations on how people can find purpose? I know that's like one of the hardest questions to figure out in life.
That's one of the most common questions. That's the most difficult to answer. You just have to get out there and start doing things and find something that again, is the frying pan to the forehead moment. Like, it will be as obvious as taking a big cast iron frying pan smacked right in the forehead. You'll be like, wow, this is what I should be doing. I want to do this for the rest of my life. Another question you can ask yourself is, answer this question. Like, I lose track of time when. So if you lose track of time when you're on dirt bikes, I would be doing more of that and trying to find something in and around that. It may not be riding dirt bikes. It might be, I don't know, facilitating events, repairing them, selling parts. I don't know, but there's probably something in that area that will lead you to the frying pan to the forehead moment.
Yeah. So use creativity to try to monetize what you're doing.
Yeah, just do stuff. I mean, there's so many rudderless guys today that are just sitting around doing nothing with their time, and they're just like, hey, Rich, help me find my purpose. It's like, dude, that's not my job. You need to get out there and start doing some shit, and the clarity should come with you doing things that are meaningful to you.
Yeah, that's another healthy thing on masculinity, is not holding people's hands.
Right.
Get out there and do it, because then it waters it down. If somebody shows you how to do this stuff, then you're not actually building that self-confidence to rely on yourself, especially if you try to do entrepreneurial stuff.
Yeah.
You mentioned going out there and doing things, and a lot of guys don't have a rudder. They don't know where they're going in life. They're just kind of drifting. One of the things that I try to recommend to a lot of guys is just removing as much as you can from your life. Are you into minimalism or anything like that? Just taking away anything that does not specifically serve?
I am definitely into minimalism in most areas of my life. I mean, there's some areas that I'll spend exorbitant amounts of money, like supercars, because that's just my thing and I enjoy that.
Yeah.
But I'm also a big fan of making lists of stuff not to do. I put out an email to my email list in the last month. It was like an hour-long video, and it was a list of about 10 things that you shouldn't do in business. And a lot of these were from my own personal experience, but also from the broader spectrum. It's like, okay, look, if you want to have one of the guys out there that talks about ELF type businesses is Joe Polish, and he calls it easy, lucrative, fun, as opposed to a half type business, which is hard, annoying, lame, and frustrating. So if you want an ELF type of business, there's certain things that you want to stay away from, right? Like anything where you're constantly eating what you kill, like you're always hunting. Versus, being in agriculture and things just keep growing and coming to you. It's like an ATM that keeps spitting out like $1,000 bills every single day because you're running it properly, sort of thing. So things like subscription revenue or membership are going to be far better than somebody that might sell cars at a used car lot, right? Because you only get paid when the deal closes and you've sold the car and it's gone off the lot, sort of thing. Whereas you've got 2,000 customers paying you $100 a month. Okay, at the start of the month, I've got good recurring revenue. So, I think you got to put that in consideration. And to me, that's another way to unplug from comforting lies and subscribe to some uncomfortable truths, because it's a longer, harder play to go and build up a membership community of 2,000 people versus selling 10 cars a month, maybe, right? Because you get that instant gratification, the dopamine hit comes right away.
Yeah. I did a podcast last week with a guy who's in sales, and we've had a lot of conversations like this on subscription models or just paid content and stuff. One of the big things that kept coming up on that conversation was, the time requirement and the consistency and the dedication. Like, you have to go do it For your men's group, do you just do like a 1 day a month, or how does that go as far as calls for the group?
Mondays are my days for calls. So I've got a business tier and I've got a general community. So I just alternate the Mondays, and every Monday I'm doing twice a day calls at 3 and at 9 p.m. So I get the guys in the different time zones. And those run for 90 minutes. And sometimes it's Q&A, sometimes it's on investing topics. Sometimes we'll just talk about cryptocurrency for an hour and change. In some cases it's guys that are stuck on some stuff in their business and they're looking for some clarity. So we kind of move around different topics, but it's all in a tight knit group.
Yeah. Okay. Are you in crypto right now?
Yeah, man, I'm a big fan of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. I'm more of a libertarian, so like I'm all about leaving me alone and keep your hands out of my pockets.
Yeah, definitely. That's how I started my YouTube channel. Actually, is not crypto, but equity, technical trading. Just teaching technical analysis. But there's only so many videos you can make about the stock market till it gets boring. Watching charts all day. What did you get in crypto at?
Early 2017. Like I really didn't start piling some money in until late 2017, as it was really obvious that this is going somewhere.
Yeah.
What about you?
I never got into crypto, so I always stayed away from it from a logical standpoint. Looking at it as a service, it's more like world currency. So its only value is when it's being used and when it's being circulated. And from a technical perspective, looking at the charts, I started out in penny stocks and low floats and pump and dumps. I'm not sure if you're too familiar with the technicals on that stuff, but the charts of Bitcoin are the exact same charts that I used to watch in low floats and penny stocks. And it's like the psychology of how those charts move. It's all hype. So it's pumping up right now. Same thing with Tesla, where it popped off real high. But crypto's an interesting conversation though, because there is a value there, and there, especially for security and understanding and protecting your money. But the majority of people don't care about that stuff, and they don't understand the true value that's going on there. And then, I've got a friend who put all his money into XRP. I don't know if you're familiar.
Oh yeah, bad move, but well, hopefully he got out before it all went down.
He put it in like 17 cents. It's doubled right now, but yeah, I'm just like, he believes in it wholeheartedly, and I got to respect the play if it works. But all your money into that's a pretty risky move.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with anything that's a centralized sort of crypto is it's a lawyer magnet for lawsuits, which is really what made it all collapse. I'm super bullish on it. I'm down with it. I think it's real funny because I was talking to my dad over the weekend, and he's like, it's not real. You can't put your money in something that's not real. Have fun losing your money. My response is just like, well, have fun being poor, right?
Yeah.
The only reason why people, believe in fiat currency is because the vast majority, like 99% of the population still uses it, right? It's just like the 1 or 2% that are starting to use crypto that are getting the value in it. So there's going to be a wall of money that's going to pile into it, slowly over time. But
yeah. If my dad said that, I'd be like, you do realize that the money you use now isn't real.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I was getting at with him.
What's your opinion on inflation and stuff going on right now with them printing out the money like they are?
It's crazy, man. And, you got Biden coming into presidency this week on the 20th. So, I'm guessing they're just going to print a ton more of it. It's just going to keep compounding, which means, again, there's a big, bright future for cryptocurrencies.
Are you seeing a bubble in the financial sector and just, I guess, the world economy in general?
Dude, the world economy baffles me. Like the financial markets, to me, like, when COVID hit and everything shut down except for the big box stores, yeah, they all took off. The Costco's, the Amazons of the world, they all made bucks deluxe. But, then all these other small businesses ended up getting shut down, and, they said they were doing it for the safety of society. I just don't get the stock markets the way that they operate. Cryptocurrency makes a lot more sense. Bitcoin makes, like, I'm clear on it. I'm not clear on on the way the stock markets work. Like I get when there's demand and there's oversupply, prices will move in those different directions, but that's just basic stuff. I mean, I put a lot of money into some startups. Like I got into an IPO on a psychedelic company, psilocybin. Because I think there's a bright future for that. I think it's going to be the next big wave that, the green wave took, the cannabis industry. So yeah, I'm bullish on some companies out on the stock market, and I do hold some stock still, but I really like the crypto market better now at this point.
Yeah. If you're going to get into equities, IPOs are the way to go. Get into it early while you're undercutting everybody.
Yeah, you definitely want to know the team and check their past track record and make sure that you're getting in with a good team. Otherwise, you could blow a lot of money and it goes all nowhere. Yeah,
definitely do a lot of vetting. The psilocybin company, is that IPOing or is that already out or what?
Yeah, it IPO'd in October. It's I'll just plug it because I'm a holder. It's Field Trip Health.
What's the ticker?
FTH, I think it is.
FT what?
FTH, I believe.
FTH. All right. I'll have to check that out. Have you done psilocybin? I did. Actually had Ryan Christensen. He did a hypnotism therapy with him. I'm going to be doing a video on it.
Yeah, I saw his video actually. Yeah.
We were talking about psilocybin a little bit on the back end. And is it something that you've done?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm a big fan of microdosing. I think it's helpful.
Yeah, I love microdosing. Have you done any full-on like heavy ones?
Nothing like a hero's journey just yet, but I'm open to it. Yeah.
What about DMT?
Nope, haven't touched that. Peyote, like none of the other stuff. Just like the basics, obviously.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing. It really opens up you start seeing things. You start being aware of things that you wouldn't normally be aware of.
Yeah, I'm all about challenging myself. Like I like moving into dark places. Usually when there's some darkness, that's kind of going on, whether you're, in your conscious or your subconscious, it's something that you need to move towards and deal with.
Yeah, because it keeps popping back up if you don't. I've been getting into Carl Jung psychology quite a bit, shadow and all that stuff. What would be number one books for most guys? Like, let's say somebody who is just starting out, trying to get their life together, trying to move forward and do things correctly.
Well, I think my book is probably a good start, but I'm a little bit biased because I think that's an area that can prevent a lot of guys making some really dumb mistakes in their lives. Like some of the biggest choice, like I'm going to say a couple of the biggest choices that guys make in their lives is deciding what to do, to earn money and for purpose. And then the other thing is which women or woman they're going to invite into their inner circle. And, there's an old saying that not all women will destroy you in family court, but all women can. And there's a lot of guys that have learned firsthand going through the divorce machine, how true that really is. So, I think that if you're a young guy, if you're 20 years old, like one of the common reviews that I often get for my book is I wish I knew this shit 20 years ago. So,
yep.
You can start with the Unplugged Alpha, available on Amazon, quick plug there. But aside from that, I think that for me, I have an entrepreneurial mind, so I'm going to be biased when I give you a list of some books, right? Like I'm going to say, read some of Richard Branson's books, like Losing My Virginity. Read the Everything Store, which is basically about Jeff Bezos. I like studying excellence because success leaves clues.
Yeah.
So that's what I would spend time doing. I mean, there's a lot of mindless crap that guys can and will do, but I mean, if you want to have impact in your life and you realize, like one of the things guys realize at some point is time really flies. And I probably didn't recognize that until I was like in my early 40s, like time really flies. In my 20s and 30s, even in my 30s still, I still thought I had the luxury of like forever. But I know today I'm closer to my grave than I am my birth date, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that too. As I'm turning 30, I look back on my 20s and I'm just like, what the hell was I doing with all those years and where'd they all go?
Yeah.
So as far as divorce and stuff goes, back to when I found the red pill, my mother did a lot of the stuff, the horror stories that you hear about in divorce, and just it really does entirely. You're screwed pretty well as a guy in today's society. And I was in an engagement back in my early 20s, and I found the red pill because I was researching the dangers of marriage because I saw what happened as a child. Are you hard stance, no marriage ever for any guy?
Well, when you define marriage, I mean, in the conventional senses, guys live it today, like in the West. Yeah. Am I opposed to inviting women into your life? No, of course not. I think that, women are great. And if you find the right one, they can be complementary to your life. But the problem is that, like, men have this convoluted notion that marriage is just about love. You take your vows till death do us part, and sickness and health, and richer and poorer, and blah, 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 blah. And that'll be it. But, one of the things that a lot of married guys learn when they get into a marriage or several years into it, that they start Googling things like, how do I get my wife to bang me? Right. And it's like, they thought that they were going to have easy, consistent, reliable access to the same monkey sex that they had before they said, I do, and the kids came along. But they don't realize that things change dramatically. And if, she wants to run you through the divorce grinder, if it makes sense for her.
So are you just doing plates now? Are you just seeing multiple girls?
I've done all that. I mean, like, I'm in a LTR right now, so I'm fine with that. There's really a lot of, there's a lot of, how can I put it? A good buddy of mine once said, you got to dig through a lot of dirt out there to find some gold.
Yeah.
There's, like, women today are not what you thought they were going to be when you were a young man. Like, they're all sugar and spice and all things nice. Like, there's some landmines out there. Like, there's some real train wrecks out there. And the older you get, the more of them there seem to be.
Well, I think you see it more. You start to notice it more.
Yeah, it's like once you start to see the code in the matrix kind of falling, like in the movie, you see all these like points, like all these data points coming down. You're like, nope, red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. Okay, we'll try this one out and see how it goes out. And you go out for 2 or 3 dates. You're like, nope, red flag. So there's a pretty long and exhausting vetting process that you're going to go through if you're going to invite women in your inner circle. I mean, if you just want to do it casually and non-monogamously, like, you can do what's called spinning plates, which is really just dating multiple women on a simultaneous basis with non-exclusivity. That's really where most guys should start, at the very least, is just doing it that way so they can get some clarity and see some contrast between the good ones and the worst ones, sort of thing.
Yeah, that's what I did for 7 years. I recently just tried 2 LTRs, and I don't know. It's I've noticed my mindset is much different today than it was 5-10 years ago. I went into it with like a rose-tinted glasses, and now it's much more like a vetting process. It's like you're evaluating the chicks to, see what their quality is. Is there any things that you do specifically to evaluate chicks, or is it just you kind of just watch the behavior overall and making a
well, in my book I've got a chapter on 20 red flags which guys should avoid if they want to invite women into their inner life. Okay, like, I'm talking about stuff beyond just friends with benefits or dating on a non-monogamous basis. I mean, if you whether you want to have one or multiple girlfriends, but that's entirely up to you. But those are the main red flags that you kind of want to vet for early on. So I mean, like, the first one in that chapter is daddy issues. So, a good question to ask is, so what was your relationship with your parents like growing up? You're not saying what was your relationship like with your dad. Like, you're not going specific. It's just open-ended question. Tell me about your childhood. And usually if you just ask the question and sit back and listen, she'll sing like a canary and she'll tell you the entire story. And then, you kind of pick up on what's going on. It's like, okay, well, she obviously values her dad. She's got a good relationship with him. He seems like a strong, virtuous, masculine male that, leads the family, and she respects that. That's good, because that's what I'm all about. But if she starts telling me about how, her dad was a piece of furniture and never got involved and didn't show up at the soccer games, or, the parents got divorced, maybe he got pushed out of the family, maybe he left, I don't know. But she looks at guys as a disposable commodity, doesn't value masculinity, and was raised by a feminist mother that thinks that the patriarchy oppresses all women. Oh boy, buddy, you're in for a long haul, ride with this one if you want to sign up for anything on a long-term basis, right?
Yeah, I've had experiences with girls that had dad issues or just completely absent dads. And no, I won't do it anymore. It's the girls that I have dated that have had healthy relationships with their dads, especially strong masculine A-type guys. Those are the best relationships that I've ever had.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there's other components that you can look at too, like birth order plays a role in it as well. Like firstborns get on better with lastborns, middleborns can kind of do both sort of thing. Like there's other things to consider, but
really,
yeah, there's some vetting that you can do. I mean, realistically, I mean, you want to approach it from the perspective of let's have some fun. The reason why I'm on this earth as a guy is to scatter seed. Let's put it everywhere sort of thing and have some fun, but be careful with it and, you know, do it in an intentional sort of logical way sort of thing. And don't go and lie or hurt anybody, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, just kind of experience it as a guy, as you should. And if you decide that there's levels that you want to go on up to, like you want to father children. Okay, well, there's some things that you probably want to consider if you ever want to take it to that point so that you don't expose yourself to these risks that a lot of guys get ground through going through the divorce machine.
Yeah, that's one of my biggest concerns as far as kids go. Honestly, the money in the divorce and the finance, that's rough. But from my experience as a child, you know, just trusting a chick to be good in that situation. Yeah, it's a hard.
Yeah, you can't just like trust, you know, it's like, okay, trust, but verify, right? So one of the things that Sean and I used to talk about on the Before the Trainwreck series is give it at least a couple of years, you know, before you commit to anything on a long-term basis. Just watch the behavior, apply some stress to that relationship, you know, travel for 2 weeks somewhere. I mean, it's hard to travel now, but travel for 2 weeks somewhere and see what happens when the luggage get lost and she doesn't have any clothes to wear. Like, does she lose her mind? Is she able to adapt? Can she deal with the stress? Does she blame you for it? You know, does she take ownership? Like, these are all things that you kind of have to watch.
Yeah, definitely. I actually just recently started, you know, applying stress into my relationships just to see like what, you know, because people are always going to be on their best behavior starting out. It's right. When it gets hard is when you really start to see somebody's true nature. And I ended up ending the relationship because of, you know, she was blaming me to trying to make me responsible for the feelings and stuff like that. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That gets exhausting.
It does. And it's, I think that's guys do that too when they're blue pill. They kind of expect that the woman's going to fulfill them. That was something that I really had to break from.
Yeah, well, a lot of guys, you know, behave like women today, right? I mean, we've got lower testosterone levels than we have at any other time in history, and this is accurate and verifiable because I mean they can compare skeletal remains from, I don't know, 8,000 years ago to currently today, and you can see different jaw structures. So you know that testosterone levels were completely different. So we have a society of weaker men today who have been taught basically like defective girls in the school system. And it's no surprise that they do all of these things in society, like, you know, white knighting and, you know, behaving essentially like women, you know, when it comes to these kinds of, you know, relationships. And what they do is they'll you know, they'll kind of like, oh, well, let's be 50-50. Let's be equal, right? Like, let's behave in this way that feminism has taught us to behave and act like. But truthfully, women don't want to be an equal, right? Like they want to look up to a giant. That's not to say that they want to be with somebody that's going to be, you know, oppressive and all that sort of stuff. Like, you know, they preach patriarchy. Yeah, but they want to look up to a guy that knows how to lead. I mean, one of the common complaints you hear from women, you know, when you talk to them about dating is like, well, if you're going to set a date and find something for us to do. But a lot of guys would be like, well, I don't know, whatever you want to do is fine with me. And the girl's like,
don't do that.
Right. They're like, don't do that. Like, be a freaking man. But you can't, you know, entirely blame these guys for behaving this way because they've been told their entire life, well, you know, become less so she can become more, right? You know, bend the knee to her and, you know, let's elevate all women sort of thing. It's like, okay, no wonder they're like, well, let's decide together where we're going to meet and what we're going to do for the date. Women don't want that.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like on some level too, if you're asking girls that stuff all the time, it's a vetting technique to just go out and live your life and then invite women with you.
Right.
And then if they come with you and they enjoy it and they enjoy your company, then they're living with you instead of you're asking them constantly and doing what they want to do, which is fine sometimes, but you're living through them rather than living with them.
Right. And let me share this story with you, because I went on this car ride once to this friend of mine's cottage, and this guy that I was driving with, I didn't know him that well, but he was a Muslim guy, and he was telling me about how he met his wife, right? And he said, when I was dating, I would just invite girls over to help me fold my laundry, clean my closet. Like, I would assign chores to them on the first date, and if they couldn't come over to do that, I would never see them again. So I didn't really care, right? Now that might be a cultural thing, like there might be some precedent set with that, but it's actually not that bad of a strategy to make sure that the frame and the tone of the relationship is set from the get-go, if that's the way that you want to run it.
Yeah, you'll start finding out real quick how much a chick values you or respects you when you ask her to start doing things just to help you out, like not being like a dick about it, but
No, but that's like one of the tests that you have to do. I mean, a lot of guys don't understand that women fall in love with guys when they're really doing things for us, right? It's not when we're doing things for them. So one of the tests that I tell guys to do, I use this in a video in the summertime. I called it the Score McFlurry test, because, it's hot as hell in the summer. So you want to get treats from McDonald's. A Score McFlurry is a nice treat, right? So you can tell a girl, and it doesn't have to be that, it could be a bottle of wine. It could be pick up something for me, but it's like, hey, before you head over tonight at 8:00, can you do me a favor and stop by and pick up, insert this, right?
Yep.
And if she protests, if she makes a big deal out of it, like if it's a $10 item or less, she shouldn't cry about it, right?
Yeah, I did that last night.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's becoming aware of this stuff, because you really can't see it unless you're talking to guys about this stuff. Like, nobody teaches you these things.
Well, women certainly don't. They just tell you to be a nice guy.
Yeah.
How's that been working out for society?
Yeah. Good luck with that. What do you think the future of the world is going to be as far as men and women? Do you feel like it's going to continue to go more and more?
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's a tough one, because this wave of feminism is no longer about equality. Women are equal. They've been equal for a long time. Now it's more about supremacism. Women are never held accountable. They don't need to take ownership for everything. They can make false allegations, and men are considered guilty until proven innocent. You can use Me Too as an example for that. So it's a lot more hostile than what it used to be, which is why I think it's that much more important today to understand things like I've written in my book, like the Unplugged Alpha or the Rational Male series and stuff like that. But if you want to have positive interactions that serve you as a guy, you're going to have to approach it with a rational lens. You're going to have to unplug from the lies, because if you stay plugged into the bull crap and continue doing what you've always done, you're always going to get the same results which you've always gotten, which aren't going to be great. There's so many guys that get into relationships or marriages with women that don't see them as their best. They've been alpha widowed by some other guy, 10 years ago, they still pine for. Maybe they still secretly message, behind the scenes on Facebook or other apps, and he doesn't know about it, or she's got male friends. And then these guys don't know how to set these healthy boundaries. Yeah. And it's this return to a positive, like, masculinity that will serve guys better so they can get better results. And truthfully, as much as the toxic feminists, point and sputter about it, it's really what they want. They want to be with a guy that leads. The problem is that society is like blended everybody to this point where it's like, let's just turn into these worm people that nobody can, let's be all inclusive and make up these genders that don't exist, and
everybody be the same.
Yeah, and get rid of words in Congress like father, mother, daughter, sister, like all the stuff that's going on. And this, to me, is it's just a level of insanity. So you have to be really, really careful going forward. I can see a big market, going forward for like the MGTOW movement and things like sex dolls, which will probably turn into sex robots at some point. Yeah, and I don't know where that's going to leave women. It's going to leave them with what, like cats in their box wine? I don't know.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like, honestly, when my life and my relationships have improved dramatically health-wise from being red pill, and it's like people look at just the surface level of it and they call misogynistic or they call whatever they're going to say, just insert some buzzword. But at the end of the day, the relationships that I've had from Red Pill has been way better than the other ones. And it's on some level, women want to be happy and men want to be happy as well. But then you have all this crazy stuff going on and these crazy ideologies. You had a story of being attacked specifically. Was there something that happened in as far as cancel culture or something you said like maybe 5 minutes ago?
Oh, it's mostly because of things that I'll put out on social media, right? Or like a video that I'll have, for example, like one of my tweets that went viral that got picked up by feminist news outlets and bloggers was something like a list of 6 things that, women can do to keep a guy around, which is basic stuff, which would have been like conversations that, I don't know, a grandmother would have had with a granddaughter 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Stuff like be feminine, take care of yourself, have culinary skills, know how to please him, like basic stuff like that. But in today's environment, you're not allowed to have preferences as a man. So what that taught me was, and if you go to Google and you search, for @Rich_Cooper Twitter, and then go to news on that Google tab, you'll see all kinds of press on, these toxic feminist publications that are like, he's an incel, he lives in his mom's basement. What else do they say? He's probably a fat, short, bald man or something like that. It's like,
yeah,
dude, I'm 6'2", jacked and loaded. Like, I don't really care what you think. I have no troubles. But what they do is they immediately default to shame,
yeah.
point and sputter. He's an incel. And it's like, okay, well, let's take a look at your lives. And it's funny because when you click through on the author's profile or their icon, it's some like 300-pound, purple hair, like toxic feminist with cats all over her in her Twitter bio.
Yeah.
So you always got to consider the source, but that's just the standard narrative, today in society with media. It's just, all masculinity is toxic. Today, you can't express preferences without somebody, pushing back on you.
Yeah. That's one thing I learned from YouTube is when people attack you, it's very much usually projection. It has nothing to do with you because they're going to be upset and unhappy 2 weeks from now and totally forget about you.
They'll be crying at somebody else in like 15 minutes, and it's like, let's be outraged about something all the time. And okay, well, fine, if that's what you want to do, but that's what we're facilitating. We're basically creating a society of a bunch of crybabies. Nobody wants to do the work anymore. Everybody wants to sit back and take handouts. On Twitter, like all you have to do is open it up, and there's always somebody complaining about, oh, well, we don't have a minimum living wage, and so is racist, and so is homophobic and xenophobic, and there's all these ideologies out there, and nobody's actually like taking ownership for their own lives or their own work anymore.
Yeah, it's definitely accountability is a major thing. Have you read The King, Magician, Warrior, and Lover?
No, I haven't. Is that a good read?
It's probably my top read of the year. It's a really good book. If you like psychology and are you familiar with Carl Jung's work at all? And archetypes, anything like that?
I haven't read much of his stuff, no.
But you're into evolutionary psychology?
Oh yeah, I love Evo Psych.
It's very similar. So the King, Magician, Warrior, and Lover is essentially the 4 masculine archetypes of the human mind. My first 2 episodes of my podcast, I dive into it, and it's visual. I think the first episode's 20 minutes if you want to skim through it, but it's essentially comparing and contrasting these deep psychological archetypes they date back, millions and millions of years. You can probably take them all the way back to, are you familiar with Jordan Peterson and his lobsters?
Who's the author?
I gave the book to a dude for him to read. I don't have it on me. But it's 2.
Give me the title again. The
King, Magician, Warrior, and Lover.
Okay.
It's a fairly quick read too. But they are predecessors of Carl Jung. So it's built off of Carl Jung's archetypes psychology. And essentially archetypes are these very, very low level, they're even below your subconscious, below yourself and all that stuff. They've been evolving. They're kind of the blueprints of masculinity or femininity. And you see them play out it's another thing you're going to start seeing the matrix. You'll see, and they compare and contrast immature versus mature masculinity. And when you look at least when I look at what's going on in the world right now between men and women, I see a disconnect of taking boys and turning them into men, and taking girls and turning them into women. Back in the day, you had like rights and trials and stuff in cultures, and that cultural upbringing, or that tribal upbringing, or even the family upbringing in today's society, especially in America, is totally decimated. And I think it leaves a lot of guys lost. Like you said, a lot of dudes are rudderless because they don't have anything to look at. Like, this is how you be. This is how you become more.
This is true.
Yeah, that goes back to what you said earlier too on finding successful people and emulating them. Right? Who are your big guys that you study?
I don't have like big guys that I study anymore. There was a time when I did. Like, I would basically read the biography of any successful entrepreneur, and anything that like precursed that, The Richest Man in Babylon, sort of stuff.
Love that book.
Yeah, like I'm more interested in like honing myself now at this point, and kind of studying excellence, within myself, because you could sit around watching other people chase excellence, your entire life. I mean, you see these guys that'll sit around wearing wearing a jersey with another dude's name on the back, and he'll sit there on his couch yelling at the TV for 3 hours, and is like, we won. It's like, no, you didn't, dude. You just sat there and wore a shirt and drank beer, and you got Cheeto dust on your chin. You yelled at the TV. That's not chasing excellence. So for me, I think there's a time where, like, I've got to like stop studying other people to that degree, and really study excellence, within myself, and really kind of level myself up.
Yeah, definitely. They talk about they'll say that in that book, in the King version, where people see the best in themselves and other people, and then they just live vicariously, like sports and stuff. Are you a big sports guy?
I'm okay with sports, but I don't like sit around watching it. Like, I find it boring.
Yeah, me too. I'd rather be out doing stuff.
Yeah, like I like to go out and do stuff and have fun with my friends, but that's a totally different game.
Yeah, you're into supercars. What do you got right now?
I've got an R8, but I've got something new coming this year. But I like to go out with my friends, and we do rallies. We'll do like smaller groups. Sometimes we just get together and have a social event. But the whole, you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Some people think, oh, you just bought that supercar because you want to impress girls. Well, couple of things with that is, one, girls aren't really that impressed with supercars. I mean, if you go to a gas station, women are not throwing themselves at you. It's like dudes that are walking up to you, talking to you about the car.
Yeah.
And then the second part of it that you start to realize is it gives you exclusive access to like another like group or a community, because if you can afford to buy something like that, then it puts you in a better room. A buddy of mine once said, if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room. So get out of that room.
Yep.
It's the same sort of thing with the supercar, component. You get to put yourself in a different room of people, and, you're always challenging yourself, and they're always very interesting. I mean, they're mostly entrepreneurs and business owners in that group. Yeah.
Yeah. I never really thought about that until earlier, because I'm a big car guy. You're in Toronto, right?
Yeah.
I grew up in Indiana, Muncie, big car culture there, but it's all mostly hot rods and muscle cars, 1970s and stuff.
Yeah, I was in that too when I was a kid. Like a lot of muscle cars, Mustangs, Camaros. Like the Boss 429 was my favorite when I was a kid. My
dad's got a blue Boss 429 original.
Those are wicked cars.
Beautiful. But what's your favorite car?
That's it. Yeah, the Boss 429 Mustang, 1970.
Do you ever have one or ever drive one?
No, a friend of mine had a 1970 Mustang Coupe, and it kind of did it up nice, put on some nice wheels and painted it. But I mean, the Boss 429s last time I checked were like $500,000. And, to me, that car is not worth $500,000.
Yeah.
But it's pretty sweet to look at. I actually like the retro rods better, more of like the older body style, but with the modernized brakes and engines and interiors.
Older is like 50s, 40s, what?
No, like basically taking a 1970 shell of a Mustang, but they'll drop a newer like a brand
Oh,
new motor in it, a brand new transmission. So it's got, 8 gears instead of 3. It's
yeah.
got a proper, suspension. So instead of leaf springs, it's got, proper coilovers or something like that with some with some bigger disc brakes rather than like drum brakes all the way around. So the car looks old. It's got that old nostalgic look, but it performs like a modern day supercar.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you, do you do any racing?
I did some when I was younger, but I don't now. No.
Yeah. Why not?
Why not? It's really expensive and there's no money in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. I used to drag race a 1970 Camaro. It was that, and it was a lot of sitting around in fire suits, sweating all day.
Yeah.
Few runs in. Did you do drag racing or circuit or what?
Yeah, I did drag racing. I did some street courses. I did some two-stroke shifter karts. For me, like the hardest was probably the two-stroke shifter karts. Drag racing a motorcycle was pretty challenging too. I used to like doing that.
That's a dangerous thing. I
Yeah.
wouldn't ever drag race a bike. It's a
Oh
you're a
yeah.
big bike guy, right?
Yeah, I rode bikes for a while.
You don't anymore though.
Not anymore. Not right now. No. I
This
figured.
safety thing.
Yeah, I figured my number's going to come up at some point. So I drive supercars now.
Yeah, that's I've always thought about getting a bike. Thank God I didn't when I was younger. I was looking at a Busa. I definitely
Hmm.
that wouldn't have ended well.
Yeah, those are crazy.
Yeah. What's your what was the last bike you had?
ZX7R Ninja, which was a lot of fun.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I only rode one 1000 CBR. Damn. I know I can't get one. I'll stick to cars as well.